when you're advising them, you need to keep in mind, you got to keep their best interest at heart. You're protecting their financial interest, their best interest. Your job is to protect that. Hi, this is Damon Gettier with Damon Gettier and Associates, Realtors Brokered by Real. Today, we're going to talk about real estate contract basics. You do not have to be a lawyer to understand real estate contracts, but as an agent, you do need to know the basics. In this video, we're going to break down the key terms, clauses, and pitfalls every agent should be confident with. So some key terms that every agent should know. Purchase price. So purchase price is the price that the consumer will be paying for the house. Pretty self-explanatory. Earnest money deposit. So earnest money deposit is not their down payment and it's not closing costs. Earnest money deposit is, hey, I'm earnest, I'm sincere, I am wanting to purchase this property. I'm not playing around, I'm not jerking you around, I'm not wasting your time. I'm serious. This is the deposit I'm going to give you, which really isn't to you. I'm going to give stating that I am serious in purchasing this property. In the contract, it will state who is holding that money. Okay, so that's what an earnest money deposit is. Has nothing to do with down payment, nothing to do with closing costs. It's the money you're giving to the deal to say, I'm serious about purchasing this property. Closing date is the target date that you have set to close on the house. Typically the day you would also take possession and occupy the house. Contingency is kind of like if then. If I get approved, then I'm buying this house. If I don't get approved, then I'm not buying this house. A home inspection contingency would be based contingent on the home inspection. If I like it, I'm buying. If I don't, I'm not. These would be contingencies on the house. Also, another contingency would be contingent on me selling my house. If I sell my house, then I will buy this house. If I don't sell my house, then I will not buy this house. That would be a contingency. So when you're writing a contract, on the purchase side, the fewer contingencies, the better. Property disclosure. So in Virginia, a disclosure is a misnomer, but it's a property disclosure in Virginia should be called a disclaimer because a disclosure in Virginia sends you to the Virginia site. We actually did a whole video on this you can go watch. And that site tells you that there is no disclosure, that it's a buyer beware state. And so in Virginia, it's buyer beware. It's called a disclosure. It's not really a disclosure. The only person who has to disclose something is the agent if they knew it. The seller is not required in Virginia to disclose anything, typically. So some common elements we see in a real estate transaction would be a default clause. A default clause says if the seller does this and refuses to close, this happens. If the purchaser does this and refuses to close, then this happens. We rarely see a seller default. We usually see a buyer default, and a buyer will default in many ways. Mostly is buyer remorse. I changed my mind, don't want to buy it, which that can get really sticky really quick because you signed a legally binding contract. Unfortunately, many buyers think it's a cell phone that they can just walk away from and Verizon's not going to do anything. Well, when you're dealing with houses and multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars, somebody's doing something about it. So the default clause is in there for a reason. For goodness sake, go over it with your clients. Amendments. So a couple things. Two terms that get used synonymous and they're not is addenda, addendums, and amendments. So addendum is singular, addenda is plural. That is a change to the contract. So a contract, our contract, 7, 8, 9 pages is boilerplate. Fill in the blank, we make changes to it, whatnot. Any change to that or addition to that or caveats to that are done on what's called addendum. If there's more than one, they're addenda, okay? So the addendum to a contract is a change to the boilerplate contract done in advance so all parties agree. An addendum might be the home inspection addendum, where you're asking for a home inspection, it's on an addendum. A standard clause addendum would be the standard clauses in the contract that oftentimes we use. It's an addendum. We're changing the contract, we're adding it before we agree on it with the other party, so it's an addendum. After we have an agreement by all parties, everybody signed, any change to the contract from that point forward is done on an amendment. We're amending the agreement. We're amending the contract that we made. And so if you remove the contingency in regard to home inspection, that's done on an amendment. If you change from the contract being subject to selling a house to subject to consummation, subject to the house being sold, that's done on an amendment because we're changing the terms of the contract. All parties have to agree on that also. Inspection and Apperedendum. So it's funny, before the contract, when you're asking to do an inspection, it's on an addendum. After the inspection is done and we're removing the contingency for the home inspection, it's done on an amendment because we're changing the terms of the contract. So it's really important. So agents need to realize that when they ask their client to sign something, a couple of things. One, agent really needs to understand what they're asking the client to sign. It's really important. It's paramount, because it's the client that's going to be on the hook should they sign something and not understand it. The first and foremost, the agent needs to understand it. Secondly, the agent needs to make sure that the client understands it. The client needs to understand, the consumer needs to know what they're signing, what it means, why they're signing it, and what the ramifications are should something go sideways once they sign that. So a real estate agent has what's called a fiduciary duty to represent the consumer, the buyer, or the seller, depending on who you represent. So when you're advising them, you need to keep in mind, you got to keep their best interest at heart. You're protecting their financial interest, their best interest. That's your job, is to protect that. And if you don't understand the contract, go to your broker, go to a lawyer, go to an attorney, find someone to explain the contract to you. And if your client doesn't understand it, do not let them sign it until they do understand it. Just like nails on a chalkboard said, when I hear, well, I didn't really understand what they were asking, but I just told them to go ahead and sign it. Like, I don't want to hear those words, especially from my agents, which haven't heard those words from my agents, but don't want to hear those words, because a client should understand what they're signing with a clear understanding, no misinterpretations, no hesitancy whatsoever. So a practical tip for real estate agents, I will tell you, and it's something agents need to understand and do, and very few do, and we really stress it to our agents, is we don't practice on clients. We don't practice on consumers. We don't practice on real people. I tell my agents all the time that, you know, in the NFL, you practice 200 days a year to play 17. And this is similar, different. We practice on each other. We don't practice on consumers. And so with our understanding of the contract, we discuss contracts every single week. Like 52 weeks of the year, we talk about contracts in our office. My agents understand it. They're taught it. It's drilled into them, because you're asking the consumer to sign something, you better understand what it is. So practice on other business professionals, practice on others who know what the contract means when you're explaining the contract, so that when it gets time for you to be in front of the consumer, the buyer, the seller, you know what you're asking them to sign, you can answer the questions, and you're doing it in a meaningful, predictable way. So if you found this video helpful, or any of our videos helpful, please give us a like, that's a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell notification. Give us a thumbs up. I'm looking for more thumbs ups. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.